Hey,
How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just had to turn it up a little bit.
Okay, let me turn this off. I was playing this music here from last time because I interviewed Cinda Williams, and I had this. I love this. No, this was a song I grew up on. So, and
Yeah, I
that
saw
song,
that. I said,
yeah,
ooh, interesting.
yeah. So yeah, that was a nice little interview. How you
Yeah,
been?
I've been okay.
Let
I've
me
been
turn my
okay.
volume up. Let me turn my volume up. How does this thing? I got this iPad thing here. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay, I can hear you much better now. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing
Yeah.
all right.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for reaching out and just getting the conversation started.
I saw the movie and I just had to. Because yeah, yeah, but that's want to touch on that. That was a movie. That was a really good movie.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you.
it's just especially the last part of it, like when everybody kept doing their part on the end.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to talk to you about that. That was like the movie itself was everything. Um,
Thank you.
but before we do that, um, what time is? I guess it's 7 o'clock there, right? So we in California.
7 o'clock in Houston.
Oh, Houston. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Houston, Texas.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. And so tell me a bit like about yourself, and pretty much how did you get started into film? Like what? How did that happen?
Well, I'm from Boston originally. I've been in Houston off and on about 10 years. My entire family is still in the East Coast. So I traveled there a lot. And I really started out as an author. My first movie, Dangerous Thirst, it's the complete opposite of Through Sickness and Hell, but it's based off of my trilogy. So I started with one book back
Hmm.
home. I
Hmm.
published it while I was living in Pennsylvania, and then when I got to Houston, I finished books 2 and 3 and published them together. So I kind of just started out as an author, and then myself and the producer of Dangerous Thirst, we crossed paths, and that's how I kind of. It wasn't but God, right? Because
Right,
things
right,
like that don't happen by chance. I feel like God really intervened on that one and put the minds together, and that's kind of like how I got into the film world was by meeting Shannon Washington at the time.
right, right. Wow. So let's talk about the beginning, right?
Yeah,
I know you were an author, but
yeah.
when you were writing your books, did you think of doing film? Was it a thought? Oh, okay,
No.
okay,
When I finished the first book, actually as I was writing it, I had a couple of readers that was reading the script for me before I self-published it. And
right,
people were saying, "You need to make it a movie. You need to make it a movie."
right.
But it's one thing for other people to believe in that. And if you don't believe in it, then it's not going to happen. It wasn't until I started seeing the vision that I really started like pushing the envelope on, you know what? I think I do need to make this into a film.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So this so did you go to any? Did you take any like courses in writing and in terms of doing film? Did you to do that? Because that's a transition to go from writing a book into doing a
It's a
movie.
huge transition. Yeah, it's a huge transition. So I initially when I started writing, I've been writing for my almost my entire life. So like through middle school, high school, I was doing poetry and things like that. When I got to Texas and started going to college out here, the creative writing, one of my professors told me I needed to do creative writing, and I did, but I dropped the class because it wasn't compatible to like my type of writing.
Right, right.
So once I decided that film was going to be what I was going to do, then I took a screenwriting class with a man named John Alexander,
Okay,
who's out of Virginia, but he does classes online, and I got certified through him to do screenwriting.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because we all of us, when we were younger, everybody wanted to do a movie, right? We all had that idea. Everybody wanted to do a movie, but it takes for I grew up in the generation of like Spike Lee. He was my hero, right? I grew up in
Yeah.
that generation, and that's what we were talking about the last time. Because it's like when we saw that, there was another guy named Matty Rich. I remember him, but when we saw them do movies, that was the first time we got, get a dose of someone young black person, going out there and making a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those movies back then, they really hit the culture, right?
Yeah.
What this but before we do that, I forgot to. I'm so excited to interview. I forgot to say, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. I was just so happy to get you on. I forgot.
It's okay.
So,
Oh man.
introduce yourself.
So Jaleesa Marie, writer, director, producer, author of Dangerous Thirst, writer, director, producer of Through Sickness and Hell. And then I do have Runway of Shadows that will come out June 3rd. We just wrapped Repaid in Blood. That will come out, I think, October of this year. And we're getting ready to start filming his Revenge in June. So I'm a busy girl.
I'm telling you, I love what I'm seeing, especially because I'm normally focused on a lot of music, right? And something just happened when I just introduced, I like started getting into like I was watching. I always watch Tubi movies. Like I love Tubi. Tubi's
Yeah.
I love Tubi. I mean, I have my pros and cons. You know what I mean? I have pros and cons. But what I do like is what I appreciate when I see movies like yours. There's another young lady. Her name is Angela White.
I believe I follow her on Facebook, believe it or not.
Yeah. So we're trying to schedule an interview too. So I'll probably be next week. It'll probably be next week. But what I appreciate, because I used to be a photographer, right? My wife and I, she was a photographer and then brought me in. I had to help her out, so I had to learn. I had to go to take some courses and learn how to, use these cameras, right? But
Yeah.
I did get an appreciation for, cinematography, understanding it to a point where I appreciate it when I see it now, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate it when I see in your film. I appreciated the way you were able to bring out the dramatic, the scenes. First of all, the scenes, the pictures, the lighting, all that stuff makes sense. Because sometimes I still look at some movies and it's kind of like, I wish someone could talk to this person and tell them, look, you got to invest into a camera system, right?
Yeah.
Some of the movies on Tubi are like that, but I give them credit. You know what I mean? They went for it. But, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That the fact that when you did your shots there, right? You took your serious shots there, right? And the framing and everything. And I just want to focus on it and congratulate you on that. Because I know the movie's doing well. I can tell because I can see the reviews online, and now where we're gonna talk about this one, right? We're gonna just touch on why you did it and stuff like that. But this movie is on which channels now?
So it's on Tubi, it's on Prime, it's on Vudu, on Hoopla, and beginning April 22nd, it'll be on Peacock.
Okay, it's on Apple as well, right?
Yes.
Because of Apple, yeah. Because I thought I saw it when I was looking. I said, "Well, okay, yeah, you out there now. You're doing it. You're gonna be big. You're real big now." So now with
and it's Roku too. It's on Roku as well.
Yeah, and in terms of what inspired you, I know you wrote the book, but were there other things like personal experiences that inspired you to do this film?
So as far as the film is concerned, if I could be honest, I didn't really have an inspiration. I didn't have an inspiration, but I come from a family of 7 brothers. And one thing my mom, that she valued us with was respect, right? In terms of, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, you're supposed to respect them at all costs. However, when I was writing it, I thought back to the days when I used to work at a domestic violence shelter, and I would see women come in who would say, not all of them, but a few would come in and say that they were the ones getting abused. And as the investigation happened, we find that they were actually the abuser. And, I just put myself in a position where I'm like, I don't know how it would be if a woman put their hands on my brothers. because I'm very protective of them and they're very protective of me, and thank God, I've never seen them in a situation and they've never introduced me to a situation where like they would say, sister, this happened or that happened. If it did, they kept it very private and I would never know about it. But I thought it was, as I was writing it, I had it in my spirit that I had to speak for the men because I always feel like the men don't have enough voices, and they get criticized when they do speak up, and I hate them.
I do see that like sometimes, it does sound a little like when we were younger, right? And you hear about young ladies, or ladies, hitting their boyfriends or something.
Uh-huh.
During that time when we were younger, it was weird, right? It was a weird thing, like, but you never thought of how the man felt.
Right.
You just think of it, oh man, if somebody does that, you never thought about it that way. And then you tell it, I guess sometimes when people tell the police what happened, they don't look at it as you know what I mean? Back then. Now they do, but back then they didn't see, you know what I mean? In the neighborhood, no one really looked at it as, it's like a man up thing, right? Man up and just take it, right? But, it's going on a lot.
It is.
It's going on a lot. So and I'm glad that's when I saw the film, I was like, wow. I was watching and I was saying, this film really needs to, this needs to be put out there. And I'm glad you're putting it out there because it's something that needs to be, you know what I mean? It needs to be.
It literally put the words of flip the script.
Yes.
Like flipping the script, literally, because we have tons of domestic violence movies that are about women, tons.
Right.
The type of men, you're going to find them down to the burning bed. And I think that was in like 1970, God knows what.
Yeah.
But you don't see them often, if at all, about the men. And I just thought it was necessary. Right. And I could be honest, I did not think I was going to get the response that I've been getting. I didn't think, I've had men inboxing me, sending me poems that they've written about the abuse that they have, been through. I have men hitting me up, just telling me their stories. And I'm like, whoa, I was like, God, you didn't prepare me for that part, like you got me ready for the script. You got me ready for the movie, but you didn't prepare me.
I have 43 unread. Yeah, I have 43 unread messages here. I'm talking to you, and I'm like, people are kind of like, I guess, because it's one of those movies, right? It's one of those films that's it's just going to keep catching on, right?
Yeah.
Like wildfire. It's a weird thing, you know what I mean? Especially, if it's not like, let's say it's not on a broadcast channel like an ABC or CBS, something like that, but on the streaming site, what happens is the more we talk about it, and the more it's just going to catch on because it's real.
Yes,
it really hit me when I was watching it. I was like, wow, especially when the character, the gentleman here, when he took his shirt off, right, to and his sister saw it. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, and he covered it up, and then he was just like, no, everything's okay. Everything's okay. That was tough. That hit me hard though, because it's something that men do. You know what I mean? This, and I'm glad people are taking a light to it because it is on both sides. I don't know how equal it is, but in terms of it's 50-50, but I'm just saying it's a lot going on with that.
Yeah. Well, in the movie, so one thing I do as a writer that I've done pretty much in every movie that I've done thus far, anything that I put in the movie as far as like statistics and things like that, I do the research on it before I put it in the movie because I want it to be real. So the numbers when they were in the men's group and the therapist and they were calling out all these different percentages, all of that was real. I found all of that just doing research, to do the comparison. And while the women are higher in reporting, it doesn't negate the fact that men still report. They just don't report as often as women,
That was a touching scene.
Yeah.
With the men's group. That was a touching scene because it reminded me of something I did years ago. right? It's funny how all of this comes in full circle, right? But it's something I did years ago. But we were talking about other issue, and a lot of us, it was something we did. We brought a lot. We brought about 20 guys together. I was at an apartment, and we had 20 guys in my apartment, and I wanted to pull something together just to sit down and talk about life's issues as men, as black men. You know what I mean? And it took me back to that, right? Because some people are hurting inside, people are going through life, right? Everybody has issues, right? But some people, did you just send me a message?
Me?
Oh, I'm probably just getting it then. Okay, don't worry about it.
It just, for some reason, it showed me as well that you were on. I'm like, I know, I'm here.
Okay, don't worry. So it just took me someplace when I saw that men's thing, because very, very rarely do you see it. So when you see it, it's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
Just something, and we talked about life's issues. Some people had children, some people were out of jobs, some people were incarcerated, and then but not this issue though, which is weird. Not this issue, because a lot of people were holding it in. Some people could have been just holding it in, but. For that's why I said I'm glad you did the research on that, because that's very, because you pointed that out in the movie, and it was, you hit all the points from what I saw. That's why I was like, wow, this is a really nicely done movie on this topic. So that's why, like I said, I'm gonna promote that. I'm gonna have share this is all over the place. So I sent it out all over the place today. So
so much.
It's awesome. Now, let me ask you a question. This is with the characters. How did that come about? How did you go about finding these actresses, and how did you know they're gonna be able to sell the movie? How did that work?
So the main character, Jada, she's actually my business partner. Her name is Denise Monet. She actually has a boatload of movies out on Tubi.
Okay.
So it was funny because I sent the script to her, and I was like, initially she was supposed to be my assistant director. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to her and I'm like, hey, can you proofread this script for me? Just let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm missing something or if I need to, change something. I think she read the script in like 4 hours, and then she called me back and she was like, listen here, you have got to let me play that role. She said, please let me play that role. Give me the chance. I'm going to show you. And I was like, you think you could pull it off? And she's like, just give me the chance. And I was like, okay, because I had never seen her act in a lead role. I've seen her do smaller roles, so I was like, okay.
I just want to say thank you.
She killed it though.
I just want to say thank you to Faith and Prince. She shared it to 5 people. I just wanted to
thank you. And I see Crew on here as well. Crew, if he's still on here, he actually played one of the police officers in the movie.
Yeah, I was going to tell that scene was something else, because when they came to that door, when they came to that door, I was like, oh man. And then it hit the guy who didn't believe him. So that's what I'm like, real, you know what I mean? So I'm like, and then she was back to her. She just fit that character, of the person. She played that role of someone that, how can I say it? The way she played the role. Some actresses, right, don't fit the part,
right?
But she fit the part of that for whatever she did. Well, she did a very good job, because she fit that part. Because she had me I was like, oh my god, man.
It's so funny because now so I'm getting the inboxes and the messages as the writer, director, producer. Yeah. She's getting the messages like, is that really you, or is that your character?
she sold that role. She sold that role. I was like, oh my gosh. I was looking at her, thinking in my head, what is she going to do now? What else could she do at this point? Because I had to ask myself, what else could she do to him, right? And he was just in love. You know what I mean? I get it. You did it. That was the next. I mean, I'm going to talk about him too, but her role was like, oh my God. I was telling my friends, man, y'all gotta. As a matter of fact, one of my pals looking at it today, and he kept calling me. What is the name of the movie? I had to keep telling him the name of the movie. I said, you definitely got to see it, because this was you told a good story with this, because this was it's not because sometimes you see some of these when you're on TikTok a lot, right? Some of these come through on your FYP, right?
Yeah.
About this, and you look at this stuff, there's some crazy stuff going on out here with
Yeah.
stuff. But this young lady here, she played the role. You did a good job casting her, because she did a good job selling that role. Because
Yeah.
I didn't like her in the film. Okay, I know she's a wonderful person.
In real life, I promise you, she's a sweetheart. In real life, she is not. Hey, Nunu, she is not that person.
All I could do is just, what could you possibly do that's worse than that, right? And it just kept building up. If you do something else, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So that was an excellent scene. You're building up to that scene, and
Yeah.
then, so
And you know what's crazy is when we did the rehearsals and we did the table reads, none of that of what we saw on camera, she did not do any of that. She was very like dry and very like stale. And I was just like, I hope that's not what you're going to do on camera. She's like, just trust me. And I said, okay.
She's putting it all in. She's absorbing it all in. Yeah.
We were filming, and I can't remember. I think it was the scene when she was sitting on the ottoman, and she had the knife and the gun, and she was like replaying her mom in her head and stuff like that. She was having a moment.
Yeah.
I cried for that scene. Like, as I was watching it on the monitor, I cried because she literally just took all of that emotion and all of that, like everything she could build up to, she put it in that scene.
Right.
Just couldn't believe it. I was like, and I just cried. I was like, wow. When I called cut, I just held her, because whatever emotion she was feeling in that moment, she put it in that scene, And I was just like, wow.
I appreciate what you guys did, because those little things there, like that, those details. That's not little things, but details of going back to with a child. You know what I mean? With the childhood, with that was telling, because a lot of people, not just men, women too, they have childhood traumas, right? That's not dealt with, right? So later on in life, it's taken out on somebody, right? So that was very, very crucial to this movie. And I hope people see it and share it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I hope people see it and share it. And did you collaborate with any experts or anything? Like nothing, just pretty much read, did what you had to do and come out. Yeah, that was actually.
I just started writing it, and then as I was getting into the whole, getting the numbers and the statistics and the percentages, I started just doing some more research on it.
Right.
I really, if I could be honest, I really wanted to touch on the mental health piece and how important it is for men to get tested and go see the doctor, because we see a lot of that too, right? Where we've been seeing, music artists and then just men that I know in general who are just dying at 40, 42. And this is all from either a heart attack or some type of clogged artery or something. I don't know. But a health complication that maybe if they went to the doctor, they would have been able to prevent, maybe, things like that. So I really just wanted to touch on the mental health piece about getting therapy, how important that is for men and women alike, and we come from a culture. So I'm Puerto Rican, but I grew up with nothing but, as far as I'm concerned, I'm black. I've been around. I grew up in the projects, all my life until I got older, and we see where we have this stigma or this thing where therapy is not for us. We don't need therapy and stuff like that. And I'm just like, yeah, no, it's for us. I love God, and God knows I talk to him a lot, but there are times where I'm like, I need to go see my therapist too.
Because what therapy does also, what it does for you, it's pretty much, it's a profession, right? Where people study the mindset of people with characteristics like that. You know what I mean? So it's very, very important that you do talk to someone, because sometimes people can say something or see something that you just don't see in yourself, and pretty much it just might be one little thing you need to twerk to try to. It's because it's not like, it doesn't mean that you're crazy or anything like that, because what will happen is you can do something crazy, right? You can, by not going, you can do something crazy and not be aware of it, when you could have just said, you know what, I have a strategy on how to deal with this problem, right? So, and it's it's very, very important. So that part was the movie was, yeah, you did a good job with that.
Thank you.
You did a
Thank
good
you.
job with
And
that.
I'm actually the movie that I'm writing right now is called Obsessed Therapy.
Okay.
And that one is about a therapist who needs a therapist. You know, we fail to forget that our therapists need therapists too.
When is that
You
one
know.
coming out? You said.
Huh?
When is that one coming out?
Oh, I'm actually still writing that one. I plan on filming that one in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have you go. Do you go on site? Do you have your own studio, or do you have you have a certain location? How do you go about you know the casting for your? How does that all of that work with your the home
So as far
production?
as the casting is concerned, I do a lot of them virtually because even if I do them in person, it's hard for people to get there on time because they're working or whatever the case.
Right.
So I do a lot of virtual casting. I post them mainly on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
I actually did a video today because I had someone, I believe the name is Check That Pulse, if I'm not mistaken. I forget. I hope I'm saying it right, but they were asking about how you get a movie on Tubi and these different questions. But one of the things is people don't follow instructions, and that's how they lose their opportunity, right? So if we post a casting call and we say, hey, check out the website, go to the website, do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. Those are the expectations, but people tend to skip over all of that and send a message through Facebook Messenger or Instagram or TikTok, and automatically you're disqualified, right? So castings are very, very important. It's important to pay attention to the instructions. And then as far as the studio is concerned, I'm actually, funny that you mentioned that because I'm actually in the process of building a studio. So we're in the planning process for that. But what we do is a lot of the locations, it's about building the network, right? It's about building rapport with businesses and things like that who don't mind you coming in to film at their locations, because what it does is it gives them free promo, right? It puts them in the movie. It even puts a little extra pocket money in their pocket if they charge you, because not everybody does.
Right.
But I will say that some of the locations, like some of the jails and the mock hospitals, they're not something that I would recommend to most filmmakers because of the noise.
Right.
And as a filmmaker, we really need it quiet where we're at. There can't be like highway noise and bunch of trucks and trains because time is money.
Right.
And so every time I got a call cut for a train going by or the traffic picking up, it really kills the momentum. So
I forgot this young lady's name. She's in Georgia. She has her own studio. She has all of these different rooms. She markets it on.
Lisa?
Lisa, I don't know. I don't
Lisa
remember.
Brown?
I don't know her. I'll have to find it, research it.
Actually, no, Lisa's in Detroit. I'm sorry. No. She's in Detroit.
This is a young lady. I could get it. I can send it to you. But she's
Okay.
in Georgia, right in Georgia, and she can, she has a studio, and and she does, people go to her to do parts of the movie and stuff like that. She has all kinds of stuff, everything, like the kitchens and the jails, like you said, courtrooms and everything you need. But
Yep.
so let me just this young person here says someone from New Tax Solutions. She says us blacks don't think we need therapy, but we do. Mental health issues are real in you and not in us blacks. So yeah, in you and not in us blacks. So yeah,
Yeah.
hey, it's a serious thing, and well, I'm gonna ask you another question here. But what do you think about that? What do you think about what she said?
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. Undoubtedly. So outside of I work for the county in Houston, and I work for the disease division, but we see a lot of escalation in HIV, in STDs. Like we see a lot of escalation in that stuff. And, some people who it's a mental health disaster, when you come from being someone who's been very clean and very protected, and then all of a sudden you make a decision that puts you in a position where now you have something that you can't cure.
Right.
So
Right.
now your mental health is challenged, emotions are everywhere. So yes, I see it every day. I see it every day, every day, every day. And it is important for us to get therapy. You
Okay.
know, it definitely is. I couldn't agree more with her.
Now, working with the cast, I want to talk about the gentleman who played.
Thanks, Juan. Yeah.
So, how did you like in terms of how did you find him? How did you find him for that role? Because he was perfect, perfect.
Yeah, he actually came to me
Mhm.
when I did the audition. So mostly everybody who is in the movie, with I think the exception of Denise, who played the main role, everybody auditioned for their role.
Okay.
The lieutenant, who's Daytwan's uncle, his name is Curtis Vaughn, and he actually, a lot of people may not know this, but he's actually in Poetic Justice.
Okay.
And he played, I think he played like one of the drug dealers or something. I can't remember, but he is so good at
I
what
know,
he does.
but
He's amazing.
when we was talking to him when he first came, the first conversation he had with him sounded like me talking to my nephews. It was funny. I was like, this is how you got to talk to these young boys, man. 'Cause,
Yeah.
yo, man, look, I'm telling you this, I'm telling you that, do this and do that, and then of course, like nephews, you know how they are.
You don't listen.
Be hard headed,
Yeah.
hard headed. And that's so when I saw him, I said, I mean, I liked his role, man. I really like that. I really like what he did because not
Yeah.
only was he a police officer, but he was there for him, right?
Yeah.
And even to the end,
Yeah.
that was a good scene. That was a good scene, right?
Yeah. Everybody auditioned for their roles. And some people we were just like, this person would be great for that role, if it was a smaller role, but everybody auditioned and they did amazing.
Okay. Did like the characters? Did they have like any situations like similar to that in real life, or did they tell you anything like that, or is pretty much like they just fell into the character?
Yeah, no one shared with me anything that they may have experienced. We didn't have any moments where we needed to stop because it was too much for somebody or anything like that. And on my sets, we keep them very professional. I pray before every set, and I just ask God to cover everybody. And I always tell people if it's something that made you uncomfortable, if there's something that you're not comfortable with in the script, please let me know.
Right.
I'll make adjustments where I need to. But I do try to write films that are not going to put people in a position where they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. Because I don't know if you know, but there are some industries and some producers and filmmakers who they'll present you with a script. You'll go, you do the table read, you do the rehearsal. The script is all the same, but then when you get on set, they change it and want you to do something that you wouldn't agree to do, and if you knew it was there before. And I'm not one of those filmmakers. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. All right. What were some of the biggest challenges in doing this film?
I would say the biggest challenge we had was probably time,
Mm.
particularly with the men's group. So if you notice, there were a bunch of different people who had something to say, right? We like to keep our team no more than 12 hours on a set, because after that 12-hour mark, you start to see them kind of get tired. They don't have the same momentum anymore. Even if you give them more food or more Red Bull or whatever, that stuff is not enough to sustain them, because at this point now we need some sleep. So time was probably our biggest challenge with trying to finish that scene. So I had to cut some stuff out because the scene was actually supposed to be a little bit longer. But because of time, I had to cut stuff out, and it actually worked out in the end, because when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, dang, you don't even know that I had to take X, Y, and Z out of there. It didn't make sense, I guess. When you're writing it, it seems right, but when you see it on camera, it's like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Right. That was an interesting scene. I really liked that scene. It was an interesting scene. The gentleman in charge of the group, and and even the male character, he took a while to kind of open up. That's the thing we were talking about earlier, right? He took a while, and then eventually he opened up. So, like I said, You know,
Asked about, are you talking about when he asked about what if you could change her?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, all right. That was the movie. That was a very good movie. What are you hoping that people get out of this? What do you think? What are you hoping that viewers get out of this movie? What do you,
Conversation.
conversation. All right.
Conversation for sure. And just for honestly for men to see that they're if they're in danger, they recognize that people recognize it exists. And if the woman is an abuser, that she recognizes that maybe she needs to get some help, you know.
Right.
Because I wrote it for both sides, but I wanted to highlight the men.
Okay. Wow. So as a filmmaker, right?
Hmm.
What has been like pretty much the best takeaway that you got out of this experience?
Mm. Out of this film itself, or being a filmmaker in general?
Well, both. Let's tell me both. Both.
So as far as the film is concerned, the best experience, a takeaway from this is um, learning how to be family with the people that you're working with, right? Because we film for 7 days, 12 hours straight, sometimes 13, 14 hours. They become my family. And so the biggest takeaway that I can take from that is building relationship, right? Just building relationship, and staying strong, because it's sad to say, but you know, the film world is divided. And when you have a good group of people that you can work with and that you work with well, you want to keep those individuals. So you want to build that network and that family dynamic.
Right.
As far as a takeaway from being a filmmaker, just meeting people. I think that's been my biggest. I've met people from Hollywood. I've met people from, you know, Tubi World, from just regular Joe Schmoes, me and you type deal. And it's just, I'm a people person. So when I get to meet people outside of my little bubble, I'm excited.
I just wanted to say that I'm glad I was able to talk to you about this film. I'm definitely gonna look out for the new one.
Yes.
Definitely want to look out. So tell everyone what, like, I know you mentioned it earlier, but what's next on the agenda for 2025?
Next on the agenda, Runway of Shadows comes out June 3rd of this year. It'll come out on Prime and Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it works though with like Peacock and stuff, Peacock is very, very strategic and very strict about the type of movies that they put on their platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of knew that Through Sickness and Hell would make it to them, specifically because of the message that is driven by it. But like Runway of Shadows, I doubt it will make it to Peacock because it's more like a chick flick kind of thing, and it's a little different.
Right.
But Runway of Shadows comes out June 3rd. And as I mentioned earlier, we finished Repaid in Blood last Friday. So that will come out September, somewhere between September and November. And then we start filming His Revenge in June. So 2025 is busy.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you go to different platforms and you do that yourself. You have I guess what do you call the people that get the channel for the
Distributors and or aggregators.
okay, okay.
Yeah, you need an aggregator. Like I couldn't just. So there are two platforms that you can use without an aggregator, and that is Film Hub and IndieRights.com.
Okay.
So you can use those two platforms, but they're limited to where they distribute to.
Okay.
So my distributor, though, because I'm through Maverick Entertainment, Maverick Movies, so I'm partnered with them. So they pretty much have a slew of different platforms that they utilize. So
They're very big. I see them. I see a lot of movies that they've made as well. So sometimes,
yeah,
because I just I like Tubi is my thing, right? I just like I like the indie thing, the indie movies. I like to support indie
yeah,
movies because I'm just looking at this as maybe I'm old school, but I remember when hip hop started. I always refer back to hip hop as a benchmark because um, I remember where the young creators doing their thing, right?
yeah,
No one knew where this was going. It was just fun, right? It was a lot of fun. But what I see in and creators like yourself, you guys about to take this someplace big. I think you, your movies, your artwork, everything is going to be big. And
Thank you.
glad that what you're doing now is you're harnessing in it and you turn it into a business, because that's the one thing we didn't do when we were younger. We didn't know,
Right.
we had no idea that hip hop would blossom into what it is. There was never any thought in anybody's mind that it would become a multi-billion dollar business, right? It was
Right. Right.
just just us having fun, two turntables, right, putting work together, right? Who would
Watching
think,
all the
right?
turntables and whatnot.
Yeah. So when I see independent filmmakers making these movies and finding a platform to put your content on, right? It's has the potential of being very, very big, and I think it's going to be very, very big.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be very, very big because you know, it's not just the three channels like we used to have.
Right. Right. Correct.
You know, and just like social media, we can pass this on to people. We look, we once I redo these interviews and we talk together, then it's like family. Anything you put out here, I got to get out there.
Yeah.
My following is becoming bigger because that's why I always do promotions and stuff like that. And I look for different sites. LinkedIn is very big, so LinkedIn is big. So I got a lot of I got a few people responding to the interview today. So
Yeah.
it's you just do the best you can to share and to help people coming up, because it's tough business, but we could do it. You know what I mean? We can do it. It's a tough business, but we could do it.
Right.
We have something, so I think we have something with sharing and us being the engine behind getting content.
Engine behind it. Correct.
That's what happened. I'm glad you guys are harnessing your art.
Thank you.
When I see that's why I support Tubi, because I know it's a start for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to just be there. You can, like yourself, you go on Peacock, you're on Apple, you're on different. You can become bigger, right?
Right. Right.
It's good. They want it, right? They want
And,
it.
I tell people, I remember a time, so I don't know how old people think I am, but I'm 47. And so,
No, you don't.
yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
So when I used to watch Tubi back in the day, I would be like, man, I don't want to watch this, and then as I got a little bit older and I started watching it more and I started seeing the progression, slowly, right? Because there's still a lot of things that people need to fix, right, with Tubi. But I had mentioned earlier, I did a live earlier, and I was saying how I hate for people to say, oh, that's just a Tubi movie, right? Because those just Tubi movies come with people who actually are practicing the craft of acting. They're taking these classes. They're doing the things that need to be done to try their best to make it the best, right? And what people don't understand is, because it's on Tubi doesn't mean that it's always going to have a mistake, right? We saw not too long ago in one of Tyler Perry's episodes of, I forgot what show it was, but they accidentally had a shot, you can see it, where the cameraman is in the actual footage of the show. So that's a mistake that technically wouldn't happen with these $1 million budgets, right? And I think people tend to forget that we're human, right? We're not robots. We're human, and humans make mistakes. But with Tubi is gradually getting better, and people are learning, and people are, like I said, taking classes and trying the best to perfect it. You mentioned earlier about the audio and the quality of Through Sickness and Hell. I worked with a really great crew, right? And a really great director of photography, Conrad Craven. And these people are experts. They're, their name is attached to these things. So of course they're going to do the absolute best to make sure that everything else looks great.
Right.
So I was very fortunate to have a amazing crew and cast to do Through Sickness and Hell. But Tubi is definitely, they have a new VP now. And she's really coming down on some things. So Tubi's changing. It's changing.
Yeah, it's I mean, I find a lot of good stuff on it, and I met a lot of people
Yeah.
people, I mean, from directors and filmmakers. It's just because I was just I said to myself, I'm looking on this and I'm saying, I wish I could reach out to this person and just tell them how much I really appreciate the movie. Or and then I did it, right? I did it, and I met a few filmmakers, and they got some good stuff out here. And I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? I really enjoy because I'm a movie buff. I love movies. I love movies. I've always loved movies since I was a kid, right? Ever since VCR.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember VCR. You had VCR. Did you have a VCR?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
we remember that. You
VCRs.
gotta sometimes you ask that questions to some young people like, what? I'm
What's
like,
a VCR?
yeah,
No, I remember. I remember having the TV with the antenna. I gotta fix it. All of that.
yeah. So I've always loved movies, and it's nice to meet people that's making the movie, and I can tell them how much I appreciate it and share it, and because I know we all, in this business, we all need one another, right?
Yes, we do.
We all need
We
one
most
another.
certainly do.
So I appreciate everything. Where can
Yeah.
people find you?
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the same, Jaleesa Marie Films with a Z at the end. And then my email is Pink Diamond, so PYNKDYAMOND pro@gmail.com.
Okay.
Oh, and my website, pinkdiamondproductions.com.
PinkDiamondProductions.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and bringing me on your show. I really enjoyed this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna clip it up, send it out, and let people see you all over the place. So
All right. I'm ready for it.
and we have a radio show as well. I think I saw my cousin is up here. His name is Willie H. DJ Slack. If you see him there, DJ Slack.
Um. Oh, yes.
Yeah. He's the host. He has a radio show called The Gospel Party 716. We do a Saturday show every Saturday, and we invite people to come on and talk about like what we just talked about.
Nice.
And same thing. That's in Buffalo, New York. If you are living up there, they haven't even go into the studio, but
Yeah.
we do it virtually. So we'd be in touch with you if you don't mind. We want to talk more about it because you got a lot of young people out there in Buffalo, New York. But the link that we send, it goes across the whole world. So, but we pretty much the focus is usually up in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah. Call me up. I would love to.
Yeah, I would definitely would like to have you there. And then yeah, that's awesome. And if anything you need for help for promotions and stuff, let me know.
Thank you so much.
More than happy. We work. Not expensive, but we doable. We got to eat like everybody else.
I gotta eat. That's right.
We want some chicken wings like everybody.
Like, let's be realistic.
Right. But this is what we like to do. I think what you're doing is wonderful. So I want to just say thank you very much and for doing what you did, because that was a good movie. I'm going to continue sharing that because that's neat. That one needs to be definitely seen.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support and the love. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
No problem. But we family now, so
We're family now.
once you're on the show, your family. Let me locked in. I guess that's what the young people say. Well, locked in. I love
Locked
that.
in.
Locked in. Somebody said that to me one day. I said, "Oh, really?"
Is that what it is?
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
Thank you, Nunu.
All right, thank you, and you have a nice night. Okay.
You have a good night too. I appreciate you.
All right, then.
All right. Bye.